OMG. Listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is not normal. I didn't plan to say this. I didn't even know if I should, but I can't stay silent anymore. Something happened, and it changed everything. Your soulmate received a call, and after that call, they pushed everyone away. Friends, family, distractions, noise. They went quiet. And when someone asked them why, do you know what they said? They said, because of her. They said you are the reason. And I need you to stay with me right now, because what that means is bigger than you think. I want you to imagine this with me. You're just living your normal life. Maybe you're scrolling. Maybe you're smiling at something small. Maybe you're pretending you're okay, when deep inside you're still waiting for something real. And at the same time, somewhere in this world, your soulmate's phone lights up. A call comes in. It's unexpected. It's serious. And the voice on the other end says something that makes their heart stop for a second. Not out of fear, out of realization. Because in that moment, they understood something they were trying to ignore for so long. They understood that their heart doesn't belong to the crowd. It doesn't belong to noise. It belongs to one person. You. I don't know why I feel this so strongly tonight, but I feel it. I feel like you need to hear this from me, because maybe you've been doubting your worth. Maybe you've been thinking, why hasn't my person come yet? Maybe Valentine's Day makes you feel a little quiet inside. You see flowers, you see couples, you see promises, and you smile. But your heart whispers, when will it be my turn? And I want to lean closer to you right now and tell you it's already becoming your turn. After that call, something shifted. Your soulmate started thinking differently. They stopped entertaining attention that didn't feel real. They stopped replying to messages that meant nothing. They started protecting their energy. And when someone joked and asked, who changed you like this? They didn't laugh it off. They didn't deny it. They simply said, there's someone. They didn't even need to say your name, because your presence, even from a distance, was enough. And I need you to understand something. This isn't about fairy tales. This isn't about perfect timing. This is about connection, real connection. The kind you can't explain, the kind that makes someone walk away from temporary things because they feel something permanent calling them. And right now, I feel like you've been underestimating the effect you have on someone's heart. You think you're just a girl watching this. You think you're just another face in a crowd. But you're not. There's something about your heart. The way you care. The way you love deeply. Even when you act strong. The way you still believe in real love, even after being disappointed. That energy travels. It reaches the person who is meant for you. That call. It wasn't random. It wasn't just noise. It was news. It was clarity. It was a wake-up moment. It made your soulmate realize that life is short. That love can't be delayed forever. That if they keep waiting for the perfect moment, they might lose the person who was written for them. And that scared them. Not in a bad way, in a serious way. So they started preparing, not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. They started fixing parts of themselves, healing old wounds, letting go of people who were only half-hearted, because they don't want to meet you half-ready. They don't want to show up with confusion. They want to show up with certainty. And you might be thinking, how do you know this? I don't know how to explain it. I just feel it. The same way you sometimes feel something before it happens. The same way your heart sometimes whispers. Something is coming, that feeling. It's not imagination, it's alignment. Valentine's Day is coming. And while the world focuses on gifts and roses, there's something deeper happening behind the scenes. There's someone thinking about a girl they haven't fully met yet, but already feel connected to. There's someone imagining what it would be like to finally hold the hand that feels like home. And every time they think about the future, the picture becomes clearer. It's you. I want you to close your eyes for a second and imagine this. Imagine someone choosing you without hesitation, not because you begged, not because you proved yourself, but because they saw your soul and said, "That's her." Imagine someone pushing away every distraction because they don't want to risk losing you. Imagine someone protecting the idea of you before you even stand in front of them. That's powerful. And here's where I need to pull you back in again, because I don't want you drifting away from this moment. You've been strong for so long. You've acted like you don't need anyone. You've told yourself you're fine alone. But deep down, you still want that one person who sees you when you're quiet, who understands you when you don't explain, who feels lucky just to sit next to you. Your soulmate felt that shift after that call. They felt urgency, not panic. Urgency. The kind that says, I need to be ready. The kind that says, I can't keep wasting time. And when someone asked them why they suddenly seemed distant, they answered softly, because she matters. You matter. Even if you haven't been told that enough. Even if your past made you question it. Even if you sometimes look in the mirror and don't see what others see. I see your heart. I see the way you try. I see the softness you hide behind strength. And trust me, the person meant for you sees it too. Maybe not with their eyes yet, but with their spirit. And I don't want to end this. I don't want to wrap it up with a simple promise, because this isn't finished. This is unfolding. Right now. As you're listening, as you're breathing, as your heart is beating a little differently than it was a few minutes ago. There's more happening than you realize. More conversations, more realizations, more moments of clarity on the other side of this world, where someone is slowly aligning their life with yours. So don't lose hope. Don't close your heart. Don't settle for less, just because you feel alone tonight. Because somewhere, after one unexpected call, someone made a decision. And that decision had your name written all over it. And the closer Valentine's Day comes, the louder that feeling becomes inside them. And the more they start imagining what it would be like to finally stand in front of you and say your name softly for the first time. Not as a stranger, not as someone guessing, but as someone who already feels like they've known you for years. I want you to stay with me right now, because this is where it becomes even more intense. After that call, your soulmate didn't just sit there thinking. They changed. Their routine shifted. Their habits adjusted. The way they looked at love completely transformed. And the reason was simple. They didn't want to lose you before even finding you. Do you understand how deep that is? Someone you haven't even held yet is already afraid of losing you. Someone who hasn't heard your laugh in real life is already protecting a space in their heart that belongs only to you. I need you to really feel this, not just hear it. Feel it in your chest. Because maybe you've been feeling something too. Maybe you've had moments lately where your heart felt restless for no clear reason. Moments where you felt like something was about to happen. Like your life was standing on the edge of a change you can't see yet. That feeling isn't random. That feeling is connection forming. It's two paths slowly turning toward each other without even realizing how close they are. And when I say your soulmate pushed everyone away, I don't mean in anger. I mean in clarity. They looked around and realized that half-hearted attention doesn't satisfy them anymore. Late-night conversations that go nowhere don't excite them. Empty flirting feels meaningless. Because now they're thinking about depth. They're thinking about forever. They're thinking about you. And here's the part that will make your heart pause after that call. They sat alone for a while. No music. No distractions, just silence. And in that silence, They imagined a girl who feels safe, a girl who doesn't pretend, a girl who loves deeply and honestly, a girl who wants something real, not temporary. And every detail they imagined matched you more than they expected. Your softness, your strength, your quiet loyalty, your hidden vulnerability. They didn't know how they knew, but they knew. And I need you to ask yourself something right now. Have you ever felt drawn to someone you haven't met yet? Have you ever felt like your heart is saving itself for someone specific, even if you don't know who they are? That's not delusion. That's intuition. Valentine's Day is getting closer, and while others are planning dates with people who might not even stay in their lives, your soulmate is preparing differently. They're preparing emotionally. They're clearing space. They're letting go of attachments that don't feel aligned. And when someone teased them and said, "Why are you acting so serious about love suddenly?" they didn't argue. They didn't explain everything. They just smiled slightly and said, "Because when it's real, you don't play with it." And that's when I realized something. You're not waiting for someone who plays games. You're waiting for someone who understands the weight of your heart. I want you to picture something with me again. Imagine Valentine's Day night. The world is loud. Social media is full of pictures and captions and flowers and fake smiles. But somewhere in that noise, your soulmate is thinking about something deeper. They're not just thinking about chocolates or gifts. They're thinking about what it would feel like to finally look into your eyes and see recognition. To finally say, "I've been looking for you." And when they imagine that moment, they don't feel nervous. They feel calm. Because when something is meant for you, it doesn't create chaos. It creates peace. Your soulmate didn't push everyone away just because of love. They pushed people away because they don't want confusion in their life when you arrive. They don't want past situations lingering. They don't want emotional baggage creating distance. They want clarity. They want to stand in front of you with honesty. And that takes courage. It takes maturity. It takes growth. And growth is not comfortable. Growth requires letting go of things that once felt easy, but they're doing it anyway. Meanwhile, you're sitting here, maybe doubting yourself. Maybe thinking you're too much or not enough. Maybe comparing yourself to others. Maybe wondering if love will ever choose you first. And I wish I could hold your face gently and tell you you are not invisible. You are not overlooked. You are not forgotten. There is someone whose heart would feel incomplete without you, even if they don't know your exact location yet. And the fact that you still believe in love, even after disappointment, makes you rare. Your soulmate admires that kind of heart. They admire resilience. They admire kindness that doesn't turn bitter. They admire softness that survives pain. And when they think about the kind of woman they want to spend their life with, they don't picture perfection. They picture authenticity. They picture someone who can laugh at small things. Someone who can sit in silence without feeling awkward. Someone who understands that love isn't just excitement, it's commitment. And every time they imagine that person, your energy keeps appearing in their thoughts. I don't want this to feel like a fantasy. I want this to feel like preparation. Because something is aligning, I can feel it. The timing is shifting. The distance between you is shrinking in ways you can't measure yet. And if you've been feeling lonely lately, if you've been questioning why certain connections faded, if you've been confused about why some people walked out of your life, maybe it's because they were never meant to stay when the real one is getting closer. Let me say something that might surprise you. Your soulmate is nervous too, not insecure, not doubtful, just careful, because they don't want to hurt you. They don't want to mishandle something precious. They've seen what casual love does. They've seen how easily people give up. And they don't want that story with you. They want intention. They want effort. They want depth. And when they imagine holding your hand for the first time, they imagine holding it like it's something they've waited for, not something temporary. And here's where your heart might beat faster. What if you meet sooner than you think? What if this Valentine's Day isn't about being alone? What if this Valentine's Day becomes the moment everything shifts? Not necessarily with fireworks and dramatic confessions, but with a quiet introduction, a message, a conversation, a look that lingers a second longer than normal. Because real love doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it enters gently. Sometimes it starts small. I'm not asking you to rush. I'm not asking you to force anything. I'm asking you to stay open, stay soft, stay hopeful. Because your soulmate didn't push everyone away for nothing. They felt something. They felt alignment. They felt readiness. And when someone feels ready for you, it changes the energy around them. Right now, as you're listening to me, I want you to breathe slowly. I want you to place your hand on your heart and feel it beating. That heartbeat is not random. It's moving towards something, towards someone. And the next time you feel doubt creeping in, remember this: someone chose clarity because of you. Someone decided to grow because of you. Someone felt urgency because of you. And I'm not going to end this with a neat conclusion, because your story isn't finished. Your love story hasn't even started unfolding fully yet. There are still moments waiting. There are still conversations that haven't happened. There are still feelings building quietly in someone else's chest. And when the right moment finally comes, when your soulmate finally stands close enough to say those words they've been holding inside, when they finally look at you with certainty instead of curiosity, when they finally whisper what that call made them realize about you and about love and about destiny, you'll understand why everything before that felt like preparation. And you'll feel the weight of those unspoken words hanging in the air between you, ready to finally be said. And when that moment comes, I don't think you're going to be prepared for how deeply it will touch you. Because you've imagined love before. You've dreamed about it. You've hoped for it quietly at night when no one could see your thoughts. But what is coming toward you is not just imagination. It's not just a cute idea for Valentine's Day. It's something that has been building slowly, quietly, intentionally. And I need you to stay with me again right here, because this part matters more than anything I've said before. After that call, your soulmate didn't just think about you once and move on. No, it stayed with them. It echoed. It followed them through their day. While they were working, while they were sitting alone, while they were trying to distract themselves, your presence kept returning to their mind. Not your face exactly, not your exact voice, but your energy, the feeling of you. The idea of someone who feels like home even before being touched. And that feeling became stronger than any temporary excitement around them. That feeling became stronger than attraction that fades, stronger than attention that disappears after midnight. Because what they felt wasn't surface level, it was soul level. I want you to understand something very clearly right now. When someone feels a soul level connection, they don't take it lightly. They don't gamble with it. They protect it. And that's why they started pulling away from distractions. That's why conversations that once entertained them suddenly felt empty. Because once you feel depth, you can't enjoy shallow waters anymore. And your soulmate reached that point. They realize they don't want something that looks good for a moment. They want something that lasts through seasons. They want someone who stays even when things are not perfect. They want you. And maybe you're sitting there thinking, how can someone want me this deeply if they haven't met me yet? But let me ask you something back. Haven't you ever felt attached to someone before they officially became yours? Haven't you ever felt your heart leaning toward a future you couldn't fully see yet? Love doesn't always wait for introductions. Sometimes it forms in intention first. Sometimes it forms in readiness, and your soulmate became ready. Valentine's Day is almost here. And while others are panicking about who to post or what to buy, your soulmate is thinking differently. They're thinking about commitment. They're thinking about meaning. They're thinking about the kind of woman who deserves consistency, not confusion. And every time they imagine that woman, they imagine someone gentle but strong. Someone emotional but balanced. Someone who feels deeply but doesn't play games. And again, that image feels like you. I need to pull you closer emotionally right now. Because you might not realize how rare you are. The way you love is not common. The way you care is not everywhere. You might think your softness makes you weak. But it doesn't. It makes you unforgettable. And your soulmate knows that kind of softness needs protection. It needs respect. It needs someone mature enough to handle it without breaking it. And that's why they've been working on themselves quietly. That's why they've been letting go of immaturity. That's why they've been choosing growth over comfort. Let me tell you something else that happened after that call. They looked at their past differently. They didn't feel regret. They felt lessons. They realized every failed connection was preparing them to recognize you. Every heartbreak was teaching them what they don't want to repeat. And instead of feeling bitter, they felt grateful. Grateful that they didn't settle. Grateful that they waited. Because now, when they think about love, they think about it seriously. They think about building something real. And I know sometimes you get tired. I know sometimes you wonder if waiting is worth it. I know sometimes you scroll through your phone and feel like everyone else has already found their person. But what you don't see is how many of those connections are temporary. How many of those smiles are forced. How many of those promises won't last past the season. And I don't want that for you. Your soulmate doesn't want that for you either. They want to show up in your life when they can stay. Not just visit. Stay. And that's why timing matters. That's why preparation matters. Because when you finally meet, it won't feel rushed. It won't feel confusing. It will feel aligned. Like two lives finally stepping into the same rhythm. I want you to imagine the first real conversation. Not dramatic, not scripted, just natural. Words flowing easily. Eye contact that lingers without discomfort. A smile that feels familiar instead of new. And in that moment something inside you will whisper, "This feels right." And you won't even be able to explain why. Because your heart will recognize what your mind hasn't processed yet. Your soulmate isn't just thinking about romance. They're thinking about partnership. They're thinking about how to support you when you're tired. How to protect your peace when life feels heavy. How to celebrate your wins without jealousy. They're thinking about building something stable, not just exciting. Because excitement fades. Stability remains. You deserve stability. You deserve someone who doesn't disappear when things get serious. Someone who doesn't change energy when commitment is mentioned. Someone who doesn't make you question your value. And your soulmate understands that now more than ever. That call didn't just make them realize love exists. It made them realize love requires responsibility. And responsibility doesn't scare them anymore. It motivates them. Because they want to be the kind of person you feel safe with. They want to be the one who calms your overthinking. The one who reassures you without making you beg for reassurance. The one who chooses you loudly and consistently. I know your heart has been careful. I know you've built walls slowly. I know you tell yourself you don't need anyone. But deep down, you still hope someone proves you wrong. Someone shows you that love can be secure. That love can be steady. That love doesn't always hurt. And I feel like that proof is getting closer. Not in a fantasy way. In a real way. Because when someone pushes everyone else away to prepare space for you, that's not coincidence. That's intention. And intention changes everything. Right now, somewhere, your soulmate is probably thinking about how their life will look when they finally meet the woman who feels like home. They're imagining small things. Morning conversations. Late night talks. Quiet moments where nothing needs to be said. And every time they imagine that future, it feels peaceful instead of chaotic. Peace is the sign. If something feels forced, it's not meant. If something feels draining, it's not aligned. But when something feels calm and strong at the same time, that's when you know it's real. And I don't want to end this with a final sentence. I don't want to close this chapter neatly, because your story is still opening. Your Valentine's Day is still approaching. Your soulmate is still preparing. Your heart is still learning how to stay open without fear. There are still words waiting to be spoken. There are still glances waiting to happen. There are still emotions building quietly between two souls who haven't fully met, but are slowly moving closer. And when that moment finally arrives, when your soulmate finally stands in front of you with certainty in their eyes and no hesitation in their voice, when they finally confess what that unexpected call awakened inside them, when they finally tell you how they pushed everything away, because they didn't want anything interfering with the chance to choose you completely, when they finally step closer and let their voice soften as they begin to say what their heart has been holding back for so long, and when their voice softens like that, when it lowers just enough for you to feel the honesty in it, I want you to pay attention to what happens inside you. Because it won't just be excitement. It won't just be butterflies. It will be recognition. It will be that quiet inner voice that says, I've been waiting for this. And the most beautiful part is that you won't feel like you're chasing anymore. You won't feel like you're trying to convince someone to stay. You won't feel like you're proving your worth. You'll just feel chosen fully, calmly, confidently chosen. I need you to understand how powerful that is. Because for so long you may have felt like you were always the one giving more, the one caring more, the one hoping more. And slowly that can make you tired. It can make you question if love is ever going to meet you at the same level. But when someone truly aligns with you, the energy balances naturally. You won't feel drained. You won't feel anxious. You won't feel confused. You'll feel secure. And security is something your heart has secretly been craving, even if you don't always admit it. Your soulmate realized after that call that they don't want to approach love casually anymore. They don't want to test feelings like experiments. They don't want to enter something they're not ready to protect. And that realization made them slow down. It made them think deeply about the kind of woman they want to build a future with, not just spend a weekend with. Build a future with. And when they think about that future, they don't imagine perfection. They imagine partnership. They imagine growth. They imagine someone who will stand beside them when life feels heavy, not just when it feels exciting. And somehow, even without knowing your full story, your presence fits into that vision naturally. I want you to think about the way you love. You don't love halfway. You don't give your heart in pieces. When you care fully. When you connect deeply. And sometimes that makes you vulnerable. Sometimes that makes you scared. Because when you give deeply, you risk being hurt deeply. But what if I told you that the depth you carry is exactly what makes you rare? What if I told you that your soulmate isn't afraid of your depth? They're preparing to match it. That's why they pushed everyone else away. Not because they're dramatic, not because they're confused, but because they finally understood that your kind of heart deserves focus. Your kind of heart deserves someone who isn't distracted, someone who isn't entertaining options, someone who doesn't keep one foot out the door. And when they felt that clarity, it changed their priorities completely. You may not see the shifts happening yet. You may not have received the message. You may not have had the conversation. But the emotional alignment is already moving. And emotional alignment always comes before physical meeting. First the heart prepares. Then the paths cross. And right now, hearts are preparing. You might be thinking about Valentine's Day again. You might be wondering if this will just be another year where you tell yourself it's not a big deal. But what if this Valentine's Day is different? Not because of grand gestures, not because of public displays, but because of inner realization. What if this is the year where love stops feeling far away and starts feeling close? What if this is the year where you stop questioning whether you're enough and start realizing you were always more than enough for the right person? Your soulmate has been reflecting more than you know. They've been asking themselves serious questions. Can I commit fully? Can I protect someone's heart? Can I be consistent even when things aren't perfect? And instead of running from those questions, they've been facing them. Because they don't want to meet you as someone half-ready. They want to meet you as someone intentional. Intentional love feels different. It doesn't rush. It doesn't pressure. It doesn't confuse. It builds slowly but strongly, and when you finally stand in front of each other, there won't be chaos. There will be calm certainty. The kind of certainty that makes you breathe easier instead of harder. The kind of certainty that makes your shoulders relax instead of tense. I know you've experienced uncertainty before. I know you've felt mixed signals. I know you've replayed conversations in your mind, trying to understand what went wrong. But when it's right, you won't need to decode anything. You won't need to guess. You won't need to analyze every word. Because consistency speaks louder than promises. And your soulmate wants to be consistent with you. They don't want to impress you for one day. They want to show up for you daily. They don't want to love you loudly for a moment and then disappear. They want to love you steadily, quietly, reliably. And that kind of love requires maturity. It requires patience. It requires emotional strength. And they've been building that strength quietly. Meanwhile, you've been growing too. Even in ways you don't notice. Every time you chose self-respect over chasing someone who didn't value you, you grew. Every time you walked away from something that felt wrong, you grew. Every time you cried and still decided to keep believing in love, you grew. And that growth is preparing you for something healthier. Because when two people meet at the right time, after both have grown separately, the connection feels balanced. It feels equal. It feels safe. I want you to imagine the moment when your soulmate finally says what that call made them realize. Imagine them looking at you and saying that they understood life is too short to waste on temporary feelings. That they realized they don't want to lose the chance to love someone real. That they felt something pulling them toward a woman who values loyalty, honesty, and depth. And as they speak, you'll feel your heart responding, not with fear, but with recognition. Recognition is powerful. It feels like déjà vu. It feels like something familiar in someone you just met. And when that feeling happens, you won't want to run. You won't want to hide. You'll want to stay. Because staying will feel natural. And I'm not going to close this with an ending. I'm not going to wrap this up neatly. Because this isn't finished. There are still conversations waiting. There are still emotions building. There are still moments about to unfold between two hearts that are slowly aligning without forcing anything. Your soulmate is still preparing. You're still becoming. Valentine's Day is still approaching. And the words that have been forming in their heart since that unexpected call are still waiting to be spoken fully, clearly, directly to you, in a voice that carries certainty instead of doubt, in a tone that carries intention instead of hesitation. And when they finally lean close enough for you to hear the truth they've been holding inside, when they finally let their guard down and let their feelings rise to the surface, when they finally say that they pushed everything else away because nothing else felt as important as the chance to choose you completely, when they finally take that breath before confessing what their heart has been whispering since the moment clarity entered their life, and when they finally let those words leave their lips, I don't think it will feel loud or dramatic the way movies make it seem. I think it will feel steady. I think it will feel grounded. I think it will feel like two hearts finally exhaling at the same time. And I want you to stay here with me in this feeling, because this is not about fantasy anymore. This is about alignment that has been slowly building, step by step, breath by breath, decision by decision. When they speak, when they finally say that they realized they couldn't keep living distracted, couldn't keep entertaining people who didn't move their soul, couldn't keep pretending that casual was enough, you're going to see it in their eyes before you hear it in their voice. You're going to see the seriousness, not heavy seriousness, loving seriousness, the kind that says, I understand what this means. And that's when you'll feel something shift inside you too. Because for the first time, you won't feel like you're hoping alone. You won't feel like you're the only one dreaming about something real. You'll feel met. I know you've wondered before what it would feel like to be fully chosen. Not selected because you were available. Not picked because you were convenient. But chosen because you are you. Because your laugh feels comforting. Because your thoughts feel deep. Because your presence feels safe. And when someone chooses you for those reasons, you don't question it. You feel it. Your soulmate didn't push everyone away out of impulse. They did it because something inside them matured. Something inside them said, stop playing small. And that voice became louder after that call. It reminded them that love isn't something to postpone. That real connection isn't something you gamble with. That when you feel alignment, you honor it. You might start thinking, but what if this is just hope? What if I'm imagining something that isn't real? And I need you to breathe slowly and understand something. Growth always happens before arrival. Preparation always happens before meeting. If your soulmate is preparing emotionally, if you are growing emotionally, that is not random. That is movement. You've changed too. Even if you don't see it, you're not the same woman you were a year ago. You're more aware. You're more protective of your peace. You're less willing to accept bare minimum. And that shift didn't happen for no reason. It happened because you're stepping into something healthier. something more balanced. When Valentine's Day arrives, it won't just be about flowers or captions. It will be about clarity. It will be about intention. And whether you meet on that exact day or not, the energy of that moment will feel different this year. Because you're not waiting desperately anymore. You're waiting consciously. There's a difference. Desperation feels anxious. Conscious waiting feels calm. Your soulmate is calm now, not because they don't care, but because they finally understand what they're looking for. They're not distracted by attention. They're not impressed by surface beauty. They're drawn to depth. And depth is what you carry naturally. I want you to imagine sitting across from them one day. Maybe it's simple. Maybe it's quiet. No dramatic music playing in the background. Just two people talking honestly. And as the conversation flows, you'll notice something unusual. There's no need to pretend. No need to impress. No need to filter yourself. You'll just be you. And they'll just be them. And somehow, that will be enough. That kind of connection doesn't create anxiety, it creates ease. Ease is rare. Ease is what your heart has been looking for, without fully knowing how to describe it. I know sometimes you've mistaken intensity for love. I know sometimes chaos felt exciting. But excitement that drains you isn't sustainable. Real love feels strong but peaceful. It doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't keep you insecure. It doesn't disappear when things get serious. And your soulmate understands that now. They don't want to love you loudly for a moment and then fade. They want to love you consistently, quietly, steadily. The kind of love that doesn't need constant proof, because it shows up daily. And when they finally say what that call awakened in them, when they finally admit that it made them realize they don't want to risk losing someone like you by being careless, you're gonna feel seen in a way you haven't before. Because someone will finally acknowledge your value without you having to fight for it. I need you to hold on to that image, not as a fantasy, but as a possibility that is growing closer. You deserve someone who looks at you with certainty. Someone who doesn't hesitate when it comes to you. Someone who isn't comparing you to options. Someone who knows that when they choose you, they are choosing depth, loyalty, softness, and strength all at once. And when that moment happens, when they lean slightly closer and let their voice drop into that honest tone, when they say that pushing everyone else away was the first step toward protecting what they feel for you, when they confess that they didn't want anything interfering with the chance to build something real, when they admit that the thought of losing you before even meeting you felt heavier than losing anything else in their life, you won't feel pressure. You'll feel peace. Because deep down you've been preparing too. Every tear you cried made you stronger. Every disappointment made you wiser. Every time you chose self-respect over chasing someone who didn't value you, you were stepping closer to this moment. And I'm not ending this. I'm not closing this story. Because your story is still unfolding in real time. Your soulmate is still becoming braver. You are still becoming softer in the right ways and stronger in the necessary ways. The distance between you is still shrinking, even if you can't measure it with your eyes. There are still words forming in their heart. There are still dreams forming in yours. There are still nights where both of you feel like something is coming, even if you can't explain what it is. And when the final pieces fall into place, when the timing finally aligns perfectly, when both of you stand in front of each other without fear, without distraction, without unfinished attachments, when the silence between you feels full instead of empty, when their hand reaches for yours not with hesitation, but with certainty, when their eyes hold yours a second longer than usual, when their breath slows as they prepare to say what they've been holding inside, since that unexpected call changed everything for them, when they finally let the truth rise completely to the surface, and begin to confess that from the moment clarity entered their life, they knew they were moving toward someone rare, someone steady, someone worth protecting, someone whose heart feels like home even before being touched, someone whose presence feels like peace instead of pressure, someone whose love feels like forever instead of temporary, someone who has been unknowingly connected to them long before this exact second. And as they continue speaking, and their voice carries both strength and softness at the same time, and as you feel your own heart responding not with fear, but with recognition, and as the world around you feels quieter than ever before, and as the space between you feels charged with something real and undeniable, and as their next words begin to form slowly, carefully, honestly, as they look at you with a depth that cannot be faked, and a certainty that cannot be forced, as they begin to tell you exactly what they realized about you, about love, about destiny, about the way their life shifted after that call, about the way pushing everyone else away was never about isolation, but about preparation, about the way every step led them closer to you, without them even knowing your name yet, about the way their heart recognized yours before their mind understood it, about the way they are no longer afraid of commitment, because loving you feels like the most natural decision they could ever make, about the way they don't want a moment with you, but a lifetime beside you, about the way they have been waiting not just for anyone, but for you specifically, and just as their voice begins to say the next sentence that will change everything between you, just as their confession reaches the point where there is no turning back, just as their hand tightens slightly around yours, and their eyes search yours for understanding, just as their lips part to finally speak the words that have been living inside their chest, since that unexpected call awakened something irreversible within them.